Trustees and Statutory Supervisors Bill, first reading.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Securities Trustees and Statutory Supervisors Bill be considered by the Commerce Committee.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on Government Order of the Day number 5.
Television New Zealand Amendment Bill, first reading.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Television New Zealand Amendment Bill be now read a first time. Mr Speaker, this bill amends the Television New Zealand Act 2003 in line with the Government's manifesto commitment to replace the current Television New Zealand Charter with a less prescriptive list of functions and to leave Television New Zealand free to function as a competitive multimedia company. The other principal purpose of the bill, Mr Speaker, is to amend the Act to allow for the rescreening of TVNZ's archived pre-1989 television programs and a process for compensation payments to rights holders when the archived programs are rescreened. The Government's election manifesto included a commitment to retain TVNZ in public ownership and to provide certainty to our public broadcasters. The Television New Zealand Amendment Bill affirms this policy commitment. For many years, Television New Zealand has effectively operated as a commercial broadcaster. The exceptions are TVNZ's digital channels, TVNZ 6 and TVNZ 7, which will be directly funded by the Government until the end of this year. Under Section 12/2 of the Television New Zealand Act, TVNZ's principal objective is to give full effect to its charter while maintaining its commercial performance. Mr Speaker, this dual mandate to meet detailed charter expectations and fulfil commercial objectives has proved to be totally unworkable. The introduction of the charter in 2003 and the funding to support charter programming did not result in appreciable points of difference between the prime-time schedules of TVNZ and other broadcasters. Indeed, the real question to ask is whether there was any appreciable difference in content on TVNZ before the charter as compared with after the charter. The answer is there was not. TVNZ's charter was first reviewed in 2007-2008 and was considered by a select committee, but legislative change did not result because this government's preference was to remove the charter altogether. This government is committed to public broadcasting. We have shown our support by making the charter commitments available as contestable funding through New Zealand On Air. The Platinum Fund allocates $15.1 million per annum for projects to screen on any of New Zealand's 6 free-to-air national broadcasters, with preference given to projects scheduled for prime-time viewing. Our view is that no one broadcaster or production company has a monopoly on the best ideas, and the Platinum Fund gives the best possible projects the chance to make it onto our screens. The existing Act does not recognise TVNZ as a multimedia company. Times have changed, and Clause 4 of the bill therefore amends the purpose clause of the Act accordingly. TVNZ's online services are the sorts of services now recognised and encouraged in the legislation. Clause 4 also reflects the new General Statement of Functions to replace the Charter, and these are outlined in what will be a new Section 12 of the Television New Zealand Act as substituted by Clause 6. With the passing of this legislation, Television New Zealand's functions will be to be a successful national television and digital media company, to provide high-quality content that is relevant to and enjoyed and valued by New Zealand audiences, to provide both New Zealand and international content and reflect Maori perspectives, and to include the provision of free-to-air channels available to audiences throughout New Zealand. Mr Speaker, this is a clear and succinct statement of Television New Zealand's functions. TVNZ will continue to provide broadcasting services to all New Zealanders, and the public will continue to have access to local content on TVNZ, including material with a Maori perspective. However, TVNZ will now have the flexibility it needs to effectively pursue commercial objectives and to continue its transition from a traditional broadcaster to a multi-platform digital media company with diverse income streams and services. TVNZ's online presence continues to grow. Its website, tvnz.co.nz, receives 1.4 million unique hits per month. The on-demand service has been enthusiastically received, attracting 300,000 unique browsers per month, and is now returning a profit. In October last year, TVNZ launched its first online-only interactive drama, Reservoir, which was a massive hit with the targeted audience. This online growth has not been at the expense of traditional television viewing, and indeed television audiences reached an all-time high in 2009. If TVNZ is to be recognised as a digital media company, other sections of the Act need to reflect this. Under Section 28 of the Act, shareholding ministers cannot give direction on programme content to TVNZ or its subsidiaries. An amendment is required to recognise that TVNZ now provides content on several media platforms that may not meet the definition of programme. Clause 9 amends Section 28 to include content among the matters for which editorial independence is preserved. Television New Zealand's archive is a unique and valuable record of New Zealand's historical, social and cultural life, and an important part of our screen heritage. As such, it is in the public interest that publicly funded programs be available for further viewing. Currently, a significant number of programs are effectively locked up in the TVNZ archive because they are unable to be screened until a number of rights clearance issues are resolved. Prior to the establishment of New Zealand On Air in 1989, programs were often produced for or by the BCNZ, with individual contracts for each actor, writer, director, composer or other contracted contributor associated with every episode of every program. The contracts reflected a single channel era and required every rights holder to be contacted before rescreening and a payment to be negotiated. Everyone loses out, Mr. Speaker. The public is deprived of the opportunity to view publicly funded material, and those who have contributed creatively to the programs have no chance to earn recognition or royalties from further screening of those programs. Under this bill, reuse of these programs ensures maximum value from the initial public investment and delivers attribution and a modest financial reward to rights holders. The reuse of the works allowed in the amendment will be confined to TVNZ's free-to-air delivery platforms at no cost to the viewer and with no direct commercial gain to Television New Zealand. Clause 10 of the bill inserts a new Part 4A, TVNZ archived works, to make provision for the rescreening of television programs produced before the establishment of New Zealand On Air back in 1989, while recognising the rights of persons with an interest in the archived work. Clause 29C of the bill will enable TVNZ to screen an archived work multiple times free of charge on its television channels, on TVNZ On Demand, and on any other delivery platform with which TVNZ may enter into agreement for the supply of content, such as New Zealand On Screen. Clause 29G requires TVNZ to establish the Television New Zealand Archived Works Fund, which will be used to make payment to individuals who register their interest in an archived work to be screened. The processes for registration, assessment of applications and the review process are outlined in clauses 29I to P. The details about where the scheme will be administered have yet to be finalised. In brief, Television New Zealand will give notice of its intention to screen an archived work through public notices on its delivery platforms, in major metropolitan newspapers and any relevant industry or guild publication. The notice will advise when a particular archived work is to be screened. People who believe they have contractual rights in an archived work will be able to register their interest. These applications will be assessed according to the person's role in the production. Compensatory payment will be made on the basis of the assessment. Before this scheme can be introduced, the Copyright Act 1994 also requires amendment to exclude the communication of an archived work as defined in this bill from being an infringement of the Act. Clause 13 and 14 of the bill make those amendments to the Copyright Act. This legislation marks a new era for TVNZ. In a converging media environment, Television New Zealand needs a flexible and realistic set of statutory functions to position it as a modern competitive broadcaster. The TVNZ archived work scheme will ensure rights holders will gain benefit from their work, The public will no longer be denied the opportunity to view works that are part of New Zealand's cultural and broadcasting heritage, and further value will be gained from the public funding invested in the